When it comes to your success,
Yes.
how would you personally describe it?
Ooh. As in, what's my metric for success? Or how would I describe
as in
my current
your business,
success?
your career,
Ooh.
it's definitely one that does not emulate the norm, however times are changing.
Yep.
CEO.
CEO, yes. Look, I think it's ever evolving. And I do think that, success is so hard to define for me because I feel like it has to be kind of a holistic approach. Like I have to be like, if I am really, really successful in business, like let's say it's just the metric is financial, but I feel unhappy or I feel sad in other areas, it really doesn't matter. And I've had times in my life where I've been like, business is booming, but I am more unhappy than I've ever been in my life. And so when that happens, it doesn't matter how successful you are in that one area, you just can't really enjoy it, you can't really savor it. So I think that success has to be very much a holistic kind of job. And so therefore, I try to really make sure that I'm successful in all areas. So it's like, okay, how are my relationships doing? When I moved to the UK, I really had to figure out like, well, what's my inner reason for training if it's, not to be half naked on Bondi Beach and dealing with clients who didn't want to be half naked on Bondi Beach as well.
I guess that attributes massively to your success because
for sure.
that is what people latch onto. What is my motivation? And you've been a huge part of that for hundreds of thousands and in fact maybe millions of people.
Oh, I thought you were going to say hundreds of thousands of years. I was like, Jesus. Having a baby's aged me.
Straight to the point.
I was like,
holding absolutely nothing back on this one.
Yes, I am 100,000-year-old influencer, fitness professional. Yes, so basically it really made me ask those questions because I think that, look, not all of us are motivated for those aesthetic reasons. It's definitely how it's marketed to us, right? How fitness is constantly talked to us about is like, get beach body ready. I mean, these things will probably always be a thing, but when I moved to the UK, it was sort of like not as motivated. I could see it in the culture. I could see it in myself. It was not a motivating reason enough to get me out on those cold mornings when I'm covered in a puffer and track pants anyway. So I was like, okay, well, what's the reason? And then I started to tap into, all my gymnastic stuff and how empowered I felt when I was a gymnast, being able to do certain things, push-ups, pull-ups, squats, all different kinds. And obviously, when you're a gymnast, you're doing all kinds of different tricks. But it was like that made me feel something very different to how it made me feel to just simply be losing weight or just simply be getting in quote-unquote shape.
So having a goal and walking towards a physical target.
A skill-based goal, exactly, It was just sort of like kept me there longer. There's an analogy that I often use where it's like, I think that there's nothing wrong with having aesthetic goals. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to, get in shape for a certain visual reason, but those things tend to be more like kindling. If you think of fitness motivation or exercise motivation as like a fire, you can light the fire with a little bit of kindling, a little bit of like, I want to get a bit more shredded. The log that's going to sustain that fire for a long period of time is going to be more like your kind of longer term goals. It's going to be like, I want to be able to squat my body weight, or I want to be able to run around with my kids or run a marathon. Those sorts of things keep us kind of like engaged for longer.
When it comes to your own personal routine, with business, with having a new baby, how do you balance that routine? What is the virtue secret?
Okay, I'm going to say right now, balance is a lie. I think balance is a lie. So I didn't want to give the impression.
That's controversial. I like it.
It is controversial, but balance is a lie. I think that there's natural ebbs and flows in life that we're all sort of trying to manage. And so actually, it's about tuning in every day to be mindful enough to kind of say, what fulfills me? What lights me up today? And then over the course of, hopefully months and a few weeks, you actually feel like more nourished by tuning in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think that, but the reason I say balance is a lie is that our lives they have so much variance, right? Something can just like drop in your plate and completely shake up what you thought was right about the world, about your life. I think if we're clinging to this idea of balance, like I must meditate for 20 minutes in the morning and I must do this, definitely there's non-negotiables about your day that I think help keep routine and keep us grounded. But I think you have to be adaptable in some way, shape or form. And so that's why I think actually it's about tuning in. Actually, it's about acknowledging what is necessary now in the moment based on the situation that you're in. I guess you would say it's a bit more of a stoic approach because it's kind of like control the things you can, but be adaptable with the things that you can't change.
I'm all for that. I love a routine. And for me,
Yes.
I love to start my day with some form of movement.
Yep.
But if I was to commit to, let's say, a 10K run every single day, for me, that instantly would pull the balance. Because then I'm not actually listening to how I'm feeling.
To how you're feeling, yeah, totally.
And then I'd be fully broken.
Yeah.
Because I could probably only do that 2 times a week before my calves blow up. That's the reality.
It's true.
So it's finding balance by listening to your body. I really like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to sleep, that's something in the Western world with high-powered jobs and places to be that we struggle with. Throughout your approach and the pillars, the pillars that we live by, how have you managed your own relationship with sleep and the importance in that? Because I think sleep hygiene is a very interesting topic.
I'm very glad that you've asked.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have to say, I look back on a lot of the content I've created around sleep in the past and I cringe. And the reason I cringe is because it's all well and good to be encouraging people without kids to get their 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Like, absolutely. That's definitely, like, if you don't have kids.
Is that a non-negotiable?
I think if you don't have kids and you're not a shift worker, you're not dealing with insomnia or, anxiety or something like that, then yeah, really, like, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
Just fucking go to bed a bit earlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Stop.
Can I swear on this podcast?
Of course you can.
Okay, great.
Stop with the drama, just get in bed.
Just get in bed.
Off your phone.
Just get off your phone. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to wake up. You're going to feel better. Like, it's just
Simple.
a thing.
Simple. It's quite easy.
For anyone else, you're dealing with anxiety, if you are dealing with something that's keeping you up, be it children, be it a job, night shift, all that sort of stuff, I cringe at some of my posts that were like very black and white, like you've got to sleep, that's it, get it done, or you're going to die. Your question about sleep hygiene, I have to be honest with you, I never paid that much attention to it. I mean, a little bit, I was like, yeah, no phones, that kind of thing. But actually, since having a little baby, I've realized how important sleep hygiene is for her because she's very sensitive to bright lights coming in, to obviously, she's not doing it on screens, but you really see the impact of what it can do to a circadian rhythm. Now, babies don't have very strong circadian rhythms, but you are trying to establish them. So you notice the importance of light, dark, those sorts of things. So really, some of the most important things for me to be able to get any kind of sleep and for her is actually, lowering the lights, making sure we're not doing bright lights at night, making sure that we're not eating too close to bed. So I actually don't do a feed right before she sleeps. I'll try to keep her upright for a while.
How do you manage that when she's like, Mommy, I want boob?
To be honest, as long as I give her the boob, probably 30, 40, sometimes even 50 minutes before she goes down, I just keep it upright, close to me. She still goes to sleep and she'll sleep, for quite a long time.
So would you say your own relationship with sleep hygiene has changed?
Yes, because even though I may not be getting sleep that's, straight from for 7 to 9 hours or something, I'm still really making sure that if I feel calm, I can still fall asleep very quickly and then wake up and then fall asleep again. Does that make sense? It's like if I'm not sticking to those things around screen time, around food, around lighting, then that's going to impact my ability to fall asleep. Like I see all the baby influencers, the ones that are sort of showing their newborn life. Yeah. And often they'll do these videos where they're showing okay, I woke up at 1 a.m. and then I woke up at 3 a.m. But they've got this massive ring light in their eyes or they've got the lights on. And I think to myself, that's not good, not just for the influencer, but then anyone watching them who is learning from these.
It's almost counterintuitive, right?
Well, it's very counterintuitive if you know about the way that light can impact your circadian rhythm. So you don't want to be turning on the lights in the middle of a feed. If you can avoid it, you want to keep those lights down low, maybe some red light, something like that. And that's not a super expensive option or switch. In fact, if anything, it'll save you on power. So it's a double whammy, guys. It's a double whammy.
Especially in the UK with the current financial crisis when it comes to our electricity bills.
Yes.
It's definitely not the one. What's your routine like day to day?
So this is another one I cringe at when I look back on things that I have said and been able to do. I mean, I don't cringe. If you have the time, it's beautiful to be able to spend your morning, thinking about taking a long time to think about hydration and meditation and journaling and all these different beautiful things. So I do still think if you have the time, commit it to those things and have a beautiful, mindful morning. That is not a luxury that I really have as much anymore. So now it's still trying to adhere to mindfulness-based practices, but probably has to be while I'm breastfeeding. So I now meditate while I'm breastfeeding. My walk is accompanied with, Bubba in a pram, things like that. But I think that in terms of a routine, you are somewhat at the mercy to this little one who hasn't quite found a routine yet herself.
And then it's being fluid, right?
And it's being fluid. I loved that morning routine movement that came in, because I do think that habits obviously dictate, there's all these sayings around like own your morning, own your life. And I do think that there's definitely truth to that. But we can't just talk in absolutes all the time. And so where is there room for us to actually be the way that humans have been for thousands of years and thrived? This is like one of our biggest skills, is the fact that we actually are highly adaptable. And so we don't want to lose that adaptability. Routine is important, definitely, and necessary, and sometimes like completely necessary. But around that, we have to have the ability to be fluid. If you can't journal in the morning or you can't meditate, does that completely ruin your entire day?
Exactly.
And if it does,
I think that's the biggest factor.
Yeah.
When it comes to people setting out these pillars of structure, if you're then for some reason unable to commit to one of those, you shouldn't allow it to
completely
ruin your day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like the balance in not letting it consume you, I think, is the important factor.
Yes.
And if you can have a few pillars that you can work towards and you tick them off, boom,
amazing.
You're absolutely winning. Shona, we ask all of our guests on the Monday Mark podcast
Tell me
what their relationship is like with Monday, the start of the week. Do you feel a Monday? Do you get the Sunday night ick? Or are you all for it?
I'm going to be very honest with you. I love Mondays.
We love that. We love that on this podcast.
Mondays feel like a mini New Year's Day for me, like a sort of New Year's resolution in a week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So kind of Mondays make me feel really good. It's sort of Fridays that I struggle with more, because I'm like, all right, weekend's coming. Did I achieve everything I wanted to achieve? And I sort of have this little internal battle with myself about those things. I think Mondays for me are that like fresh start, like time to get on with it.
For those people that might be struggling with their Monday morning.
Yes.
That are finding it hard to get up, to be inspired, to be motivated.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips or advice that you could share with our listeners?
Yes. So I'm really big on two things: cognitive behavioral therapy and another therapy called behavioral activation. Now, both of these are really, really effective in working with depression, anxiety. You don't have to have depression or have been diagnosed with depression or been diagnosed with anxiety to benefit from these things. One of the things that you do within these two things is really, there's two things actually. With CBT, you start to unpack basically your reasons behind certain things. So you'll do some Socratic questioning where you just ask yourself, like, what is it about Monday that I truly dislike? And you don't have any judgment for the answer, but just sit down with yourself and ask, and just start writing or typing or even vocalize it if you don't like to do those things. The other thing that is really valuable is in behavioral activation, which is what's called a values inventory. You write down a bunch of your values and you try to determine, okay, is my behavior in alignment with some of my true values? And so when you do those two things together, you can start to get to know yourself a little bit better, and it helps you to uncover, maybe there are some things I'm doing on my Monday that don't align with my values. So of course you can have a shit Monday. So it just helps you to get to know yourself better.
Strong.
So that you can then say, what should I start to introduce? And maybe it is going to be that you're going to introduce some physical activity because you realize, well, it is in alignment with who I am and who I want to be. It just motivates you in a totally different way.
And how it makes you feel as well. Intrinsic.
Yes.
Get the pen and paper out and start writing.
Do it. I'm here for it.
And lastly, Shona, are there any life mottos or quotes that you live by that you can share with our listeners on this very hot Tuesday morning on Bondi Beach? In fact, it's so hot that we've actually had to stop and we are now static whilst the cameraman stands in the shade. For perspective, to those of you who are listening to the audio only.
Yes, and it's not the cameraman, to be fair, it's the camera that's too hot.
Yes.
He's fine. Yes, so actually something that's really, really helped me throughout my entire life is that the obstacle is the way.
Okay.
It's a Stoic quote, and it basically is looking at the fact that it's not just trying to like knuckle down and grit through the obstacle itself, but acknowledging that the obstacle can be the thing that provides you with the gift of the next skill that you need to get through it. Like sometimes another one is the only way is through. Like you just have to do it in order to gain the skill that you need to handle that stuff, to build the resilience. So if anyone is out there going through something right now that's really, really heavy, really intense, just remember that the obstacle is the way, that the depth of this pain, there is the potential for some kind of transformation and some gift of wisdom that you'll take into parts of your life. So I think that's been my underlying one for life.
Shona Vertue, so much strength in your knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Monday Mile Walk and Talk podcast. If you are new to the podcast, please do make sure to subscribe on all of your favourite audio platforms. And we are now on YouTube, which is very exciting. You are a YouTuber. What do YouTubers normally say to their fans, their followers and subscribers?
Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, all of those things. I really, really hope you've enjoyed this Monday Mile podcast all the way from sunny Sydney in Australia. Thank you so much for joining us, Shona Vertue. It's been an absolute
Thank you for having
honor.
me.
What's next? Where to now?
Pick up the baby.
Yes.